Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Monday. Thank God it's Monday, right? Maybe not. Either way, it is Monday, and we just have to deal with it. August 21st, 2023, about 9:55 a.m. here, California time. Latest activity here on the map. Looks like some movement out into Texas. Also, let's see on the globe what we got. 3.4 over here. Across the Indonesia Islands area, it looks like some movement taking place here, including some deeper activity. We'll look at that here in just a little bit, but I want to get into the California activity here real quick. The area northwest of Los Angeles here, outside of Ventura, still seeing some earthquake activity overnight and this morning. We are over 100 earthquakes now, 111 within the last 24 hours, but we did see further earthquake activity prior to all this movement. So if you want a really a good tally here, total tally, it's 131 earthquakes with this sequence of earthquake activity there northwest of Santa Paula area. That activity continued throughout the morning here with quite a few ones and twos. As we look down the list over here on the left side of the screen, overnight we did see some threes kicking up there, including a 3.9. That was about the time I was doing the update last night, and some other earthquake a little bit later throughout the evening. And of course, yesterday's 5.1 earthquake is the largest so far in that sequence. Remember, this almost looks like there was just a 5.1 and then a bunch of activity afterwards. Well, there's about 15 to 20 earthquakes previous to this 5.1. Whether they're foreshocks or all of this is a sequence of foreshocks remains to be seen. Either way, that 5.1, the largest so far out of all of them, was felt broadly all across Southern California here. Mostly light to moderate shaking. Looks like some folks up around Modesto, Merced, even the Bay Area reported this 5.1. Now that was not on the San Andreas Fault. A ways away from the San Andreas Fault to be exact here. I don't see any information on it. A lot of times we get an earthquake of this size and there'll be a little summary, so to speak, from the USGS or a seismologist, but not all the time. So that's why I'm here to kind of chat about it. The San Andreas Fault, of course, sits over here towards the east. That's a plate boundary. Right now, that looks pretty quiet, but there has been quite a few inches of rainfall on that fault system, on that plate boundary. We'll watch that here in the coming days, see how it reacts to all the lubrication, so to speak, there at the surface levels. So this earthquake struck off of the, I'm pretty certain that it's the Mission Ridge fault system. It's kind of scattered out and about here around that area. Southern California, as we know, is riddled with fault systems everywhere. This is a thrust-type fault. Most of these earthquakes occurring fairly shallow, about 4 to even some shallower ones up around the surface level, about a kilometer or so, even some at sea level. So definitely getting some action going on across the entire, almost the entire depth of the fault system here. Again, thrust fault will create some damaging earthquakes. I think that's why this 5.1 was felt a little bit stronger over the area than, say, for example, if that was on the San Andreas Fault here, which isn't a thrust fault. But this area right here definitely is, and we're just continuing to watch it. As far as increasing activity goes here across the Southern California area, I'm really not seeing it. Whether that activity is in relation to the tropical storm Hilary that came in roughly about the same time, I don't know. I'm leaning more towards the potential that there's a relation between weather and earthquake activity. I strongly believe that. Just happens to be, not a typhoon, but a tropical storm that hit Southern California yesterday. And generally, the pressure out there, even before it made landfall up here in Southern California, is still a wide area of low pressure that can affect regions of the faults and the plate boundary, stresses within them. And I don't know. I'm pretty certain that had a lot to do with the tropical storm coming in yesterday. Far as the rest of Northern California here, fairly quiet aside from some microquakes up here. We do have one oddball earthquake. Now this is a little concerning because it is just right off the Cascadia subduction zone. Now this is a little bit more dangerous than all of the fault systems out here. If you think about it, this is one of the most dangerous subduction zones in the world. Cascadia subduction zone extends here off the coast of the Queen Charlotte Sound, north all the way down south into the northern California area. Now, dangerous because the population density out here and the subsequent tsunami that can take place from a 9.0 earthquake. Last one was back in 1700. There's been records of an orphan tsunami reaching Japan. There's been studies up here looking at the tsunami deposits throughout history and ghost forests, so to speak. Not ghosts, but trees and forests that have been, they were at once elevated and then they got lowered at the sea level regions, and then tsunami came in and just kind of covered that area up. But it's coming. I think there's there's intervals here of large earthquakes, roughly between 250 and 450 years, and it's been 320 years since the 323 years since the last big one out here along the Cascadia. So, I think everything's overdue out here across the entire plate boundary here. It's kind of odd. The last major rupture down here along the southern branch here of the San Andreas Fault was roughly about 300 years ago. About the same time as the Cascadia. Could there be a relation in between the two? Maybe one triggers the other? Very good possibility. We've just been living in quiet times, right? As far as earthquake activity goes, but that's not always going to be the case. So either way, overnight, 2.9. This earthquake actually came in, looks like about before 8 o'clock my time, but not listed up here on the map. Most of the time, USGS does not issue these little earthquakes until a review. Once they get in Monday morning and check out the graphs, and then they pinpoint the location of this quake, or any quake here that's of smaller magnitude. But that's just right. It's away from the fracture zone out here. I don't think it's associated with that. I think it's just a general stress out here amongst the, this is a Juan de Fuca plate. Of course, this whole area is being subducted underneath the North American region. Look at all those thrust and fold faults out here from the incredible strain that's built up out here across the west coast. Continue to watch that. I did see some movement up into the Washington, Idaho area. It's Monday. Hey, I can make many mistakes today and just blame it on Monday. 3.5. This earthquake here from, I believe that was from yesterday. It looks like 8:20. Today's the 21st. Most of this activity here from yesterday, but I do know we have a little bit of activity in the Yellowstone region. Let me go check it out here. Over around Maple Creek. Notice these small spikes, although most of that's going to be the 3-pointer there in Idaho. A couple other local smaller quakes there. USGS, I believe, was listing that on the map here. 2.2, 1.6. Generally pretty small earthquakes here, but that's the bigger one in Idaho. And since then, overnight, a couple smaller ones, but these are probably 0.1, 0.2, very small quakes there at Yellowstone. But a slight increase, I would say, in earthquake activity. Subsequently arriving with the what's left of Hilary. We'll check that out here in just a little bit as far as the weather goes. Goodness, I woke up to rain out here. 70 degrees and raining in Northern California. That's very odd for us this time of year. All right, let's get back to the map here, see if anything else is going on across the country. Oklahoma lighting up in the red. Outside of Enid, near Minnow, I think that's Minnow, Oklahoma, 2.1. Some other activity outside of Woodward, it looks like. Oklahoma's been a little active here over the last week or so, scattered out and about. As you can see, quite a few oil fields out here as well, same as the Texas region outside of Pecos has a lot of oil pumping operations and wastewater disposal facilities. The New Madrid seismic zone is a little active as well in the last 24 hours, including a 2.1. This, of course, here is another area that can produce some large earthquakes. I don't think anyone's safe out here from earthquakes. I mean, we can get them anywhere. But this area definitely capable of producing some large grade earthquakes as well. 2.1 and a 1.9 in the last 24 hours out there in the New Madrid seismic zone. All right, there's an earthquake there in Ecuador. 5.5 coming in late last night, about 60 kilometers deep here into a portion of the the Ecuador Trench, a subduction zone here. This actually is a major subduction zone. In fact, the world's largest earthquake struck here off the coast of Chile back in early 60s. I believe that was at 9.5 Chilean earthquake. A pretty big earthquake. Let's see what else we got down south here into the Argentina area, 191 kilometers deep, adding further strain upstream. Getting ready for the next mega quake out there. There is the South Sandwich Trench earthquake from last night, or actually yesterday, about 1 o'clock or so. Let's see what we got here for any major deep activity. Let's check out Hawaii here first. Been lighting up out here across Kilauea Volcano once again. Swarming, returning slightly, mostly smaller microquakes down here about a kilometer or so below the surface. Let's give a quick glance here at the hazard notification system from the USGS, which was put out yesterday. Same thing, basically that the volcano's not erupting, but the summit area with earthquake swarms are exhibiting signs of elevated unrest. We'll have to check that a little bit later, see when they put out the latest update, but a little bit of seismic elevated activity across the big island today. And over here around the Tonga area, all three of these pretty deep. Some deep movement quakes out here. The last one of 4.3. Down there 500 kilometers deep. A lot going on out here. So we'll expect further movement to pick up here across the Solomon Islands. It's just a cycle. A lot of pressure works its way around this plate boundary. Quiets down out here once it gets around this area, and a little bit more strain and movement involved across this area. We see that deep return of earthquake activity, and it's a whole cycle of earthquake movement. And if there's enough strain, obviously, we got to watch these surface areas for some larger quake activity. But for the most part, this is just a zone of deep earthquake activity. Look at the historical map here. I'm going to show you guys this. Darker color circles there. Goodness, I mean, there's probably millions of quakes there on the map. Maybe not millions, hundreds of thousands. There we go. Indicating the deeper movement quakes here in the darker circles. Most of the activity, it spreads across this plate boundary here around the Port Vila area. Solomon Islands is relatively shallow. So we get a lot of strain built up here in this region when we see deeper earthquake activity adding to the stress in that region. The general plate movement here shows us the Tonga Trench and the Fiji area, which is roughly right in here. High accumulation slip rate here, 240 mm per year or more. And of course, all that movement, the momentum, stresses this area along the plate boundary. Papua New Guinea area, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu. So expect that today possibly to pick up following all this deeper movement here in the last 24 hours. Right now, things are pretty calm, but that's not going to stay that way for too much longer. On the earthquake 3D globe there, looks about the same as what I mentioned on the USGS map. Quiet open zone for now. Deeper activity, it looks like, around the Indonesia islands area today. Let's see, is it this quake? 511 kilometers, goodness. So that could add further strain upstream around this region here of the Java Trench. It's 5.2, 511 kilometers deep, so we got some stuff brewing out here. Also the Philippine Trench here, seeing some deeper movement quakes with the latest, a little bit south here, 4.6, 237 kilometers deep. Over here across the Japan Trench, another deep earthquake, 4.6 into the Japan Trench. Or right in this bend here, take your pick, Japan or the Kuro Kamchatka, which is still pretty quiet for the most part. That's another major subduction zone. Far as the rest of the globe goes, minimal activity across Turkey and the Middle East, Mediterranean region. There's some deeper activity over here across the eastern Afghanistan regions overnight. Last 24 hours of movement across the Atlantic look pretty clear. Not a whole lot of development there. Oh, it's raining pretty good outside right now. I can hear it. I love the rain. Absolutely love it. I think we're getting a little bit more than we expected here, but that's good. I'm going to take it. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Real quick glance at... I don't think we got anything major going on in space weather. Just let me double check it here. pretty minimal conditions on the space weather part of things, folks. There's just not a whole lot of activity. And technically, until we get some advancement here in these sunspot regions, things are just going to stay minimal. Got a newer region around the northeastern, well, it's roughly about center eastern limb here of the sun that looks fairly complex compared to the majority of these that we've seen over the past few days. So we'll watch this area. I think that's the only area right now of development that could harbor some potential for some flaring. 95% chance for a C flare. All other flare classes, pretty minimal. All right, weather activity, folks. Let's check out rainfall. Rainfall totals so far. Let me just refresh this, make sure we got the latest information from the NOAA site here, California Nevada River Forecast Center. There's a lot of stuff you can check in here, but we're just checking the last 168 hours of rainfall. Most of that fell within the last 2 or 3 days, thanks to the tropical storm Hilary that's kicked up down here. Now, as you can see, the majority of these totals are in Southern California. We're just starting to get some measurable precipitation up here in the Sierra Nevada and in Northern California where I'm at. Look at Redding picking up some as well. And let's check these out here. What I want to do here is put in roughly about, oh, here's 6 inches or greater in the last, this is the last 168 hours. Again, most of this fell in the last couple days here. Some of these places, the last 24 hours. Look at that. 6 inches of rainfall outside of the Santa Clarita area. These are all the mountainous areas, of course, going to see more rainfall. 9 inches north of Rancho Cucamonga here. All that's going to funnel down into the creeks and whatnot and possibly into lakes. Goodness, 11 inches being reported up here north of Banning at this little area. Looks like, what is that, Raywood Flat? These are some impressive totals. Another 11 inches here in the mountain range here around Mount San Jacinto. Goodness. Outside of Palm Springs. Some impressive rainfall totals here as well. Again, mostly in the mountains. And if you look, the majority of these places here in the lower regions will bring up roughly about 2 inches or so. Yeah, we don't want to clutter it with 1/10 of an inch of rain, but the majority of people, even Los Angeles area, seen over 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, and of course higher elevations seen much more. So this was definitely a significant event, but to me it almost looks like the majority of the precipitation was off a little bit further to the west. There was one weather model here showing how a lot of this. Well, there was a couple different weather models showing the brunt of the rainfall around the Salton Sea area. But it looks as though some of these regions here west seen more than what was expected. Again, this was up in the mountains, but either way, pretty good rainfall amounts out there for sure. Around the Salton Sea area on the San Andreas Fault here, of course, it funnels up here through the mountains. Seen anywhere from 6 down to about 2 inches or so. And I'm sure a lot of that will funnel into the Salton Sea area and raise up the lake levels. Still kind of watching the potential there of that San Andreas Fault being triggered from all this rain. Let's look at the El Centro area, roughly about 1 inch of rain down here. Now these guys kind of got gypped a little bit. This appears to be the region that really didn't see all that much activity. I don't know about further up here. There's just not a whole lot of stations around the Salton Sea area. I can understand why. I was down there a couple years ago. I won't go down there again. It's not good. But an inch, looks like 1.25 inches, a couple inches of rain up here north of the Salton Sea area. And again, all this is on the San Andreas Fault. Some of these areas up here putting 6 to 7 inches on that fault system near Palmdale. So definitely, impressive. I didn't see any, let me check here, storm reports. Storm Prediction Center storm reports for 8/20. This is yesterday. Really no major hazards out there in Southern California. I did see some flash flooding, but far as any tornado reports, there was none. No major wind reports, no major hail reports out there in Southern California. And they were under a slight risk for some severe weather. So the majority was just some rain and a little bit of wind, which is good, right? But yeah, there was definitely quite a bit of rainfall on there. And like I said, we're getting some right now. I love it. All right, let's see what else we have here. Let's check out the satellite imagery. I want to show you guys something here real quick. Let me go over to the windy map, and we'll look at where the tropical cyclone is right now. It's roughly on the map. Hold on a second here. Let's bring this up. See if Hilary's still on here, or the post-tropical cyclone Hilary. I really don't have any of the cones out here now. It's pretty much the area of circulation has disintegrated for the most part, which would probably put it right up here. But on the satellite, there's a low pressure forming right around the San Jose area. Look at this. Now, the okay, why does it do that? It's just weird. I'm not even for sure how it's doing. You guys see that? My computer's being weird. I did not switch that page. It's almost like somebody's playing games here. Ghost in the computer again. Not funny. All right, I want to look at this. There's a low pressure spinning off here, off the San Jose area, it looks like. Let me show you guys the last. We're going to put last 12 hours so we can see where the area of circulation was with Tropical Storm Hilary. And for the most part, I believe it's going to be roughly right in here. But there's a low pressure system actually forming behind it. Kind of interesting here to see how that plays out. Here's the last 12 hours. So put this into motion. I'm trying to find the area of circulation here for Hilary, which is right about here. Should have been right here. It's probably well up north here, and it's just done. No circulation whatsoever. But from all of this moisture, there's a new low pressure system forming behind it. That is rather odd and rare to see out here. You guys see that? Starting to get a comma and an eye to it. But that is not the original area of circulation. It's really weird. I was looking on the map earlier before they took off the cone map here, so to speak, far as the position of post-tropical storm Hilary. It showed that it was up in Nevada somewhere, but like I say, there's a low pressure system trying to form off of this. Right here, starting to get a hook onto it and spinning. That is crazy to see. So this may continue to bring some rainfall out here for Northern California. I don't know if this was forecasted or not, but it's kind of neat to see. Some lightning associated with that low pressure as well. So we'll just enjoy the rain. Let me check out the Storm Prediction Center here today. Just normal thunderstorm threat out here across the entire west area of the states, it looks like. Here's our thunderstorm outlook. 40% across this area. This may have something to do with that low pressure system with a convective band flowing counterclockwise here, adding some further threats. But either way, this whole area could see some thunderstorm movement over the next 24 hours or so. Thunderstorm activity. But there's really no major severe weather threat right now, as far as that goes. Let me check out the... look at that in the Gulf right now. Something's spinning up there. We'll check that out here in just a second. Let's check out the California region here. See what we got for the mesoscale NAM 3KM models here. This will show thunderstorm activity potentially throughout the afternoon. Doesn't show a lot. There's that low pressure. You can actually see it right over here. But it looks like it dissipates probably tomorrow. But the rainfall, the radar map actually right now is showing a lot more than what the forecasted models are showing. Like up here around my neck of the woods here, we got this decent rainfall coming in. That's a lot more than what the forecast models are showing, so I'm good with that. And I believe that has something to do with this low pressure. You can see it right there on the map again. So we'll enjoy a little bit of rain here in Northern California as well. Not as much as Southern California got, but hey, we'll take any and all. All right, let's check out the numerical models down here in the Gulf. I think there's something brewing down there as far as tropical development goes. Look at that. There's an area of thunderstorm activity. It looks like it wants to strengthen here in the next day or so, but it doesn't really have time to develop anything. But it looks like it will hit the Corpus Christi area with some maybe a tropical storm, tropical depression down here before being sent up into the desert southwest. And notice some hurricanes out there in the Atlantic. Now that's, for the most part, a pretty massive high pressure system here, I believe, is the blocking ridge that prevents these things from going into the Gulf. But it's getting that to be that time of year to where we have to watch this pretty closely. There's another hurricane coming in. Looks like to the Florida area, maybe at the first week of September. This is a ways out, though. These things are not very accurate that far out, so we'll have to come back and look at that. But far as today goes and tomorrow, it looks like some type of real quick tropical development down here. Not a whole lot of time to gain some steam. But either way, it looks like some precipitation coming in there to the South Texas area. Far as long-range models go, with the high pressure, low pressure out here, this is look at that blocking ridge out here. Huge high pressure cooking things out here across this country, across this area of the country, which is fine by me because we're enjoying the cooler weather here in the West Coast. Now, looking at the longer range models here, it looks like the West Coast is going to stay somewhat cooler than normal. I don't see any major weather pattern change here across the board. High pressure is going to bounce around a little bit. Some cooler weather coming in towards the end of August out here across a good portion of the Great Lakes and the eastern portion of the country. But nothing major coming in for now. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here, and I think I'm going to enjoy some of the rain, go dancing out in the rain a little bit. I can't do that because I do have some school stuff I got to do today. Get that done. First day of the fall semester. We'll be back here a little bit later on. Again, keep an eye, Southern California area. I'm leaving up the earthquake watch for now just due to the enhanced activity across this area and also the potential for some further movement with all the rainfall that we've seen. Leave that up here for a day or two just because of the increasing activity. Right now, a little bit of activity there near the Parkfield region of California. Very small microquake at Hawaii, but we'll continue to watch this and see how it plays out, folks. Hopefully everyone had a safe weekend. Again, if you have any pictures or a video, I will be sharing them tonight on the update as far as Tropical Storm Hilary goes. We've got a couple already, so we'll get those together and show them up tonight. If you have any, please feel free to send them to me at the earthmastermail@gmail.com. That's my email, earthmastermail@gmail.com. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later on. Have a wonderful Monday.